have a problem.
All right, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of Heliopsychosis podcast. This is your host, Vikka Draziv. Guys, welcome to the show. If you're watching us from YouTube, do comment, like, share, and subscribe if you haven't. And if you're watching us from Flat Earth Research Network Group or Fern, Heliopsychosis, welcome everyone there too. Do comment and tag your friends. And finally, if you're watching us from realtruthseekers.com, we have a huge community there, and welcome everyone there too. And yes, realtruthseekers.com is one of our main sponsors for Heliopsychosis podcast and most of our productions and coming productions. So do check out everyone, realtruthseekers.com. And yes, what an awesome show we're going to have today. Let's go on with our co-host and guest here. My first co-host, as everyone know him from Flat in the Curve. The helicopter pilot, the scientist, yes, my good friend too, Rob. Rob, how are you?
Hello, Vikka. Thanks for the introduction. Yes, we are all scientists. Anybody who investigates the sum of 2 plus 2, well, that's a scientific investigation right there. Anybody who has any type of intellectual curiosity, call yourself a scientist. If you want to know something, instead of hear something or learn it somewhere, if you want to know something, then you're a scientist. Welcome anybody who follows that same ideology. Great topic here today. A lot of that follows on just what we're after. Thanks for everybody else that's on here. Vikka, thanks for your continuous facilitation of all of our discussion, starting with Flat in the Curve and our second iteration coming out. I can't wait to get that going. I have a lot of material already for that, Vikka, based on our discussion. Gene, nice to see you here. Thanks. Nice talking always. Mark Hollander, thanks. And Keith, thanks for showing up, guys. I can't wait to move on with this. Thanks again. Back to you, Vikka.
Oh, yeah, Rob. All flat earthers, all of us are, in a way, we could call ourselves scientists because the globals aren't doing any science. So so at least we are trying to figure out and try to, like, the people could have options to, compare, from fairy tales to some real science, because science is in everything. Even the most basic things we do in our life every day is involves science, and that's what the globals are really avoiding, so yeah, great to have you, brother. And our next co-host, you all know him too. He's from our production team, Jeannie. Jeannie, how are you?
Hey, Vikka, what's up, brother? I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here with all you guys. A great panel to be here hanging out with tonight on a really great subject. there's so much that this guy was into, and that we owe thanks to Tesla for so many things in our lives. And it's great to be back. Thanks to everybody who's listening. Thanks for spending your time with us. We really appreciate it. I hope you have fun. We appreciate the questions and all the comments that you're offering. It's great to see everybody. And I'm looking forward to tonight. Welcome, guys.
Awesome, Jeannie. And our next guest is, you all know him too. He's making amazing monologues these days, like resuming and summarizing what we are discussing and putting it really in a nice way. Keith, how are you?
Hey, Vika, it's good to be with you guys again. I missed you last week. It's going to be a good show tonight, a good subject, talking about frequencies and energies and vibrations, things that we can actually observe and measure versus the globe, which cannot observe or measure anything it claims. It's going to be a good show. Glad to be here.
Awesome, brother. Great to have you too, always. And yes, our final guest, you all know him too. Also a star of Flatten the Curve, and also an awesome author of the book Flat Truth. Do check it out. Mark Hollander. How are you, Mark?
Hey, Vika, thanks for having me. Rob had sent me a link to the show, and this is a really subject that I guess I probably know a little bit about, as much as the next guy, because I kind of, in my book, I kind of highlighted the differences between what Einstein's theoretical physics theory, being a mathematician that he was, and then you had Tesla that was on the other side that would actually quote make quotes about making fun of Einstein in particular. One of the quotes: Einstein's relativity work is a magnificent mathematical garb, which fascinates, dazzles, and makes people blind to the underlying errors of his mathematical equations. The theory is like a beggar clothed in purple, whom ignorant people take for king. Its exponents are brilliant, but men, they are metaphysicists rather than real scientists. So obviously, the discussion is about Nikola Tesla, who's actually a real scientist that actually can observe, tests, and repeat the tests of the over 200 inventions that he created. And you guys got to remember, in 1918, Tesla said you'd be able to put something the size of a pocketbook in your coat pocket, and you'd be able to communicate with anybody in the world. So anything to do with AC, DC current, electricity. He had the secrets to the universe, energy, vibration, and frequency. He knew about it, where everyone else, the metaphysicists, were actually trying to put everything.
Oh, you're cutting out, Mark. True,
Lost you,
Mark.
Mark.
It's great that somebody like Tesla existed, against Einstein and all these Newton's
Always
bullshit
appreciate
theories, and even Sagnac and Marson Morley, and there were a few other guys who were at that time. If you see the timeline, they're all in the same timeline. So it was literally like a battle, So between these fake theorists and real scientists who wanted to prove what the real shape of the Earth is. Because, for example, if Tesla was working with all this kind of technology and he was inventing stuff related to frequency, vibration, electricity, and he was also into reading Vedas, and for sure he had done many other different kind of investigations. So definitely he knew what was the real shape of the Earth. It's much obvious,
right.
because if his motor, AC motor, which functions on the polarity, how the Earth is as a Tesla coil,
Right.
as it works as a battery. So don't we think that he had to know the real shape of the Earth? And as you
Absolutely.
said about, go ahead.
Well, I wanted you guys to really see if this quote is an actual quote. It was in 1918 in Norway, where Tesla actually said Earth is a rim, it's not a planet. It's not an object, therefore it has no edge. Earth would be more easily defined as a system environment. Earth is also a machine, like you said, Vika. It is a Tesla coil. The sun and moon are powered wirelessly with the electromagnetic field, the ether. The field also suspends the celestial spheres with electromagnetic levitation. Electromagnetic levitation disproves gravity because the only force you need to counter is the electromagnetic force, not gravity. The stars are attached to the firmament. So my question to you guys, they trying to debunk this quote. Now you can go to DuckDuckGo and it actually says he made the quote in Oslo, Norway in 1918, I think in March of 1918. Google and all these mainstream websites are trying to say that Tesla didn't say that. So that right there kind of tells you, coordinates the fact that he knew that the Earth wasn't moving. Albert A. Michelson, the Michelson-Morley experiment actually disproved the fact that there was no rotation of the Earth, that it was perfectly stationary in that. So, and even Einstein even admitted no optical experiment could prove any rotation of the Earth. So, you know,
You're breaking up, Mark.
I've
yeah,
heard that.
we discussed it in the last podcast. That why Einstein made up his relativity theory just because of because of Michelson-Morley's experiment. So just to disprove that in a way with their fake maths.
Well, my final thought on that, Vika, is that the only way that he could make this theory of relativity work was to kick the ether out of the equation. So ether exists.
Right.
It is the electromagnetic field. And Einstein kicked that out of the equation in order to make his theory of relativity kind of coordinate with itself that no one else could understand.
Mark, that's exactly right.
It with dark energy, right? Dark matter.
Well, that was the side note there, Gene. Einstein's theory only works if he ignores the ether. And remember, at the time,
Right.
Michelson-Morley, 1887, was based on the ether. In other words, the entire scientific community knew that the ether exists. Einstein just made it go poof and vanish like a sorcerer with his magic wand. That's the only way relativity could ever have any weight, but it obviously doesn't, which is Sagnac comes along in 1913, proves that the ether exists. You see what I mean? Einstein just made it go, he hand waved it away, and one simply cannot do that in any scientific experiment. We have to assume what the entire community already knows, that this ether thing, it does exist. He just invented it away, which allowed him to move forward, and we all know it was complete garbage anyway.
Well, that's where the fantasy equations come in, and the numbers get ridiculous,
Exactly,
confusing, and people just think, oh, they're smarter than me. I can't handle this.
There you go. Right.
And
it's too far out of reach. They don't have the mechanisms to do it. They don't have the math to do it. They don't have the testing or the time.
I'm not smart like that. That's for those guys.
Yes, exactly. Remember the cosmology guy, the Michio Kaku. He said our error is one with 120 zeros behind it.
Yeah.
Excuse me? 3-year-olds do better math than that.
Yeah, he said.
Oh yeah, they
mismatch in the history of science, basically.
Exactly. There you go. Yes, sir.
Yeah, the thing is,
and it's not science, right? Nobody in my field follows the scientific method, he says.
Yeah, they fly by the seat of their pants. So
Voila.
in other words, they just say what they want, and
how about seat of their imagination?
And if it turns into a slice of chorizo that James Webb took pictures of, then so be it. We'll say sorry.
Exactly. And remember that hole in the international. Go ahead, Vikka.
Yeah, before they just had theory and fake maths, and now they have the theory, fake maths, and CGI. So so they're doing great for for our globers to be being sleep, like keep sleeping forever. So they're doing a great job. Anyway, Nikola Tesla was one of the greatest scientists and inventor that ever lived. For years the engineering genius was, how you say, relegated to relative obscurity for his contribution to humanity.
Right.
We were told like we're overshadowed by the series of inventors and industrialists in the 20th century, in the 19th and 20th centuries, who took the credit of his work and stole his patent, all his patent, most of the patent. He had more than 700 patents, Nikola
Right.
Tesla.
And he didn't even patent everything,
I
though.
also want to point out, Vika.
Yep, go ahead. Anyone who wants to go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I wanted to point out that also the Masons broke into Nikola Tesla's apartment in New York City, not once but twice, and
Exactly. They
stole all of
burned
his
it up.
work.
Yeah,
And
and they burned also his
they
lab.
burned it. Well, the whole problem with everything is that Tesla was suggesting that electricity should be free for everybody because everything's made of electricity, whereas the Masons wanted the government to control electricity, which they actually gave some of the credit to what's his name, Thomas Edison, and but they stole his
Right.
work. So Edison was a Freemason.
Oh, he even said to solve some problems, to Tesla, and said he would give him $50,000. And after he solved it, he said it was a joke.
Yeah, you don't understand the American humor. He was a troubleshooter for Edison in his younger days in France, and they noticed him right away, and they shipped him over to the United States shortly thereafter. And they were friends at first, but Edison was just a CEO. He didn't invent anything. That guy, he robbed all of his workers from their ideas. Lots of them.
Right, right. And connecting electricity with Tesla. Tesla was born like at midnight during a summer storm,
Yeah, lightning storm.
and there was a lightning storm, and was the lightning there, and the mother said that this guy is gonna be the son of, or the lights or something, for
Yeah.
the world. Or
So something like his uncle or somebody said that, oh, he's going to be a dark child, and the mother says, no, he's going to be a child of light. So,
right, because his father wanted him to become a priest, because he was a
yeah,
priest. His father was a priest. He was
yeah,
Orthodox priest,
yeah.
Hey
And
guys,
his mom's family was a bunch of inventors, and I'm not really too sure like in what area, but
no, she was just making small appliances. She was playing around with electricity, so that's how he got the
okay,
interest of
great.
working with electricity.
and Vika, you got to remember, guys, when Tesla said, you're absolutely right, from a Serbian family. Tesla's mom taught him. He was reading the Bible up until he was 14 years old, and his mom. He always said, as an inventor, that the only truth. His mom always taught him that the only unadulterated truth that you're ever going to find is the Word of God. Tesla said that the only person that compares with Tesla in the last 500 years would be Leonardo da Vinci. I can't compare anybody to Tesla outside of da Vinci. What about you, Rob and Gene and Vika?
There's a lot of mystery
Go ahead, Rob,
behind.
or Gene, whoever. Yep.
Well, I was going to mention the Mona Lisa, that when they did the X-rays, they found the pigments were like 50 times smaller than the pigments they can get today with machinery. There's a lot of oddities there with how he did things.
He also invented the helicopter. That Rob was a helicopter pilot.
That's the screw.
Yeah, the idea of I read a book. This is while I was flying for the Army. I read a book called Leap of Faith, and it's one of the fake astronauts. Okay, Let me bring this up. One of the fake astronauts wrote a book called Leap of Faith. And at the time, I was completely mesmerized by whatever NASA and its minions ever said. But I was reading this thing, and he included something in here that makes complete sense. Now, anybody who knows about the Bernoulli principle and how flight works, our airplanes, including helicopter blades, they have a very small lift edge. They're 90 degrees out from the plane, and the air passes over the wing, and as it has to go over the wing, literally as the air moves up, it creates a suction. It literally sucks the wing up, and then as we control that suction, that's called flight.
Right.
Okay, that's called the Bernoulli principle. Well, now in your mind, okay, let's take a step back conceptually and think that's the airplane wing, and how much lifting surface? Imagine a 360-degree surface around the entire length of the airplane. Only a small fraction of that is lift-creating surface, meaning the wings. Imagine, fellow scientists, imagine a 360-degree lift-creating surface. Okay, that overwhelms the two wings that we have on our aircraft today. In other words, the flying saucer, that was invented long before airplanes, if you see what I mean. This idea has been around. It's just, and now with me here, the 360-degree lift creating surface, how much more lift could we create with a 360-degree surface instead of the two wings, which is going to be like, let's say, maybe 20% of that surface area it's creating lift, if you see what I mean. So go back to, Mark, go back to the I'm sorry, the original Da Vinci's UFO, right? That was a 360-degree lift creating surface. In other words, that idea has been around, if you see what I mean. And yes, it's far more efficient. And now that I wake up and I realize, hey, there was a NASA astronaut talking about this. Well, he's right. And he even talked about certain people have designed that kind of a thing. Oh, and by the way, they do exist. They're just called UFOs, and they're not commonly used, if you see what I mean. They do exist. They do fly. Okay. It's just that the quote government, meaning the world order, keeps them out of the way of normal eyesight. By the way, if you want to, I'm just going to throw this out. If you want to look up the original, there was a couple of these. The Germans were flying these. It's called the Haunebu, and after they crushed Germany for their economic might, majesty, and dominion, okay, they stole their aircraft, but they kept it hidden. Okay, well, a couple of those flew over Manhattan or Long Island in 1952, something like that. And it caused such mayhem and such turmoil. People saw these things flying in the air. Everybody went crazy, and so they never did it again. And they realized, okay, we've got leverage over these people now. They're scared of this. We're going to use it. So there's your story of UFOs. They're real aircraft flown by real people.
Hey, Rob, the reason why I connected Da Vinci to, hey, Vikka, the reason why I connected Da Vinci to Tesla, because Tesla understood who Da Vinci was. It was a childhood idol of his. And Da Vinci, you guys might not know this, but he actually measured the sun being 3,200 miles away and that the moon was 3,090 miles away. So he took measurements back 500, over 500 years ago. He measured the sun to be 3,200 miles away. And of course, now they say 93 million away. So Tesla, you got to almost tie Tesla into Da Vinci, because when Tesla was growing up, he knew that Da Vinci knew exactly how electromagnetism worked, and at that time. So it's kind of amazing the connection between Da Vinci with Nikola Tesla.
Right. And this is the thing. Tesla had the ability to think outside the box, and he proved it throughout his life. He spoke 8 languages and used to study 20 hours straight, and he was like fresh in physics, mathematics, in the Austrian university. So one of his professors showed him a direct current electric motor, and Nikola said to that professor that that it has sparks and it's losing a lot of energy you know. So because he had something in his mind about the alternative motor, alternative current generator, or whatever you want to call it, you know, that it's
Okay,
the
so
basis of all applications of we have of all electric motors we have today. Yeah, go ahead.
so Vika, you know, I studied as an engineer. I studied electric engineering, was my minor, so I know what the AC motor is all about. It uses both the positive and negative because if anybody wants to study our 120 volt circuit in our house, it's a sine wave. So it's got the positive half and the negative half, right? Well,
Right.
the AC motor takes advantage of both sides of that. So it's got a circuit routing in there, whereas the DC circuit is only the positive.
Right.
So that's what you're talking about there, Vika. On the DC current, you're losing the lower half of the wave. You're only getting half of it, so it's less efficient. So the AC motor was allowed much more efficiency. So there's a little bit
Right,
of
right, and also
explanation on
also
And
is
safety.
also the DC is very dangerous too, you know. It's
Right.
much more
Safety
dangerous,
factor is
and
there.
it's yeah.
correct.
Yeah, you don't want to
Yeah.
get hit with DC.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Voila. Or AC.
exactly. So
right?
Well, I got
right,
Right?
like I think around in 1884, like he left Europe and he went to USA. So, you know, like trying to be an inventor, you know, and then he approached Thomas Alva Edison.
Yeah, he worked for Edison in France. Edison Motor Company or Electric Company or something like that, and he did really well. They brought him over pretty quick, about 6 months, I think it was, maybe maybe a couple of years. It was quick before they recognized him.
They saw the potential.
Yeah. Well, he was their troubleshooter. When they had problems, they sent Tesla over to go fix them, and he could do whatever they needed, and then some. He was young. He was like 22 or something like that.
Right, right. So when Edison gave him this problem to solve, and he solved it, and Edison that he was supposed to give him $50,000, he didn't give. That's why
Yeah.
he left. He left with against Edison, and he's tried to start opening his own company,
Mm-hmm.
Tesla Electrics. Tesla Electric's light and manufacturing company.
Right. Right. And that's when he ran into George Westinghouse, and Westinghouse saw that he had a great a motor for AC that he needed. I think it might have been for elevators. I'm not too sure exactly what it was for, but Westinghouse was a big elevator guy, and he paid Tesla $55,000 a month to use the motor,
Right,
and then gave him a bonus for every extra horsepower that he could produce out of any new motor or any old motor. He
right,
was
right.
brilliant.
Westinghouse was looking for a solution to supply long distance power
Right.
to the nation.
Right, which DC, the difference between AC and DC is that AC you can go for miles before you need transformers and
Exactly.
stations, and the DC is more like 5G towers right now, where you need them every 5 miles, or else they're kind of useless. They don't reach that long, but they're powerful.
Exactly,
But
and
you,
that what made the competition. That what made the competition that the war of
mm,
the currents, because there was
right,
now Tesla in the scene and was Edison already there with his DCs.
yeah. So that's when Edison, being the businessman that he was and the nice guy, he was paying kids a quarter for every dog they could find, and Edison would film the dog being electrocuted, and he was trying to blame Tesla for it.
Right.
And it went from dogs. Yeah, he
So
went
much
from
for
dogs
PETA.
to horses to elephants. The guy was insane. But that's I think they're all part of the robber barons, though. They're all
Well, of
kind
course,
of
Right.
they're
of
all
course.
placed in there. They almost had no choice either. They had to do what they had to do. They were there. But hey, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys ever saw the picture of Tesla. It's the famous one. He's young, got a mustache. Some people saying he has a Mason sign in his hands, with 3 fingers instead of 4. But you know, I know you know the picture. I wish I could put it up. I can't. But there's a
Yeah,
discrepancy
yeah,
in that.
but yeah, go ahead, Ginny.
Well, there's if you look close at that one particular picture, it's it's a really famous one too. Look at the chin where his chin meets the collar of his shirt, and there's something wrong with that picture.
That's what I mean. It could be easily, tampered. It could be a Photoshop. There's a lot of different
Yeah.
info about Tesla. But this
Hmm.
could be the real reason that the people think him as a Freemason or whatever, so that people don't really look what he really was.
Mm.
What was he into? Because if you go in details, there are stuff that can just blow your mind. The things he was working with.
Oh yeah.
He was in his time 100 years ago. He knew exactly what he was doing. His inventions, the motor, the electric stuff,
Yeah.
the how do you say, the transmission, wireless transmission. We are speaking about
Hmm.
100 years ago. He already solved that. And he himself said that, as Marx said, that the people would have them in the pocket, a device where everything is going to work, like
Right.
a
He knew he knew
like a
they were going to
one.
play songs. They were going to play songs. Be able to send pictures. He knew all of this stuff was coming.
Exactly, and we were speaking about the internet, like the whole brain synapse, how the
Right.
brain works, how the networks.
Right. So, and he knew about the ether, which is what we're doing. You know, we're all in the ether, and the ether, the air, is the fabric that really does connect us all. You guys, you know that, right? All our thoughts are not inside our head; they're outside our head also, and that's where the ether is. That's where you get those ideas, those strikes of genius. All that stuff is there.
And our long
You know,
hair
a
is
lot of
the antenna, and our pineal gland is our
yes.
receptor.
Yeah, Rob. I was going to say that last week when you were talking about how Wall Street makes you shave because you get down to the skin, and
Uh-huh.
and that's so you don't have your antennas, and that's how
Exactly.
Samson lost.
Right?
Samson lost all his strength when he cut his hair, didn't he? Too
Look
now,
what.
right? So,
There you go. Right?
yeah.
There's a reason why I went back to my Hebrew roots after I resigned from that Jesuit army. Right?
Yeah,
I'm growing my hair like Vikka now.
oh
Right.
yeah, I have always had long hair, since my teenage time. I've never had short hairs. I know what it means for me and what it is. So yeah, it's true what you're saying, Jeannie and Rob. So yeah,
Cool.
getting back to Tesla. Edison, he tried to make a negative campaign against Tesla because he was losing this war of the currents, but finally Tesla got with Westington the contract, to light up the whole exhibition, and maybe a huge
Oh
part
yeah.
of the city and everything. Yep.
Yeah, he got the Chicago World's Fair in 1896, I think. Westinghouse got
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
through Tesla.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And also he got a contract to generate power at Niagara Falls. Also.
Right. That's right.
And also, like, he used to power the city of Buffalo, New York.
That's right.
So this is the thing. Tesla's alternating current system, quickly became preeminent power system of the 20th century. And that's what is the standard even till today. So imagine how important is that. Like,
Yeah, I was working with
and
some electric this week, and I thought about that guy. I've been to Wardenclyffe too, by the way. It's in Long Island. I'm not too far. I got family out there. It's an interesting place. I would really love to jump the fence and get in that building, do some metal detecting. Hey, do you
Yeah.
ever see they got the Wardenclyffe Tower out there in Long Island? Pictures from the 1910s and 20s, I think it was, or 20s and 30s maybe, 10s, 20s, whatever. But it's kind of weird. They say they blew it up to destroy it, because a land developer wanted to do something there, and the pictures of them that I've ever seen of what they call them blowing the tower up and knocking it down look really strange. You see it standing, and then you see it tilted with the top on, the big mushroom on top, and then you see the mushroom gone, and it just looks really weird. The photos. Photoshop started in 1852. By the way, guys, they were taking the negative and laying it on top of another negative to create a picture that never existed. So
Yeah, of
Photoshop's
course. Right.
Yeah, Photoshop's been around for a really long time.
Reference those 6 million in Germany, 1942, 1945. Yes, sir. So I want to bring this up. World's Fair, 1900. Don't we see all the electricity of the world seem to change? World's Fair, it was completely bright, lit up. Every building was lit up like almost phospholumescent. Everything was lit up incredibly. And then almost immediately, because Tesla ridiculously lit up, and now that Tesla comes along, changes all the technology, more or less pulls the rug out from under their feet, everything's different now. Where's the connection? Does anybody have any connection on that?
Hostile takeover.
Exactly. See that I'm implying the hostile takeover by they were not okay. If all this is correct, okay, the wealthy guys,
Exactly.
represented by I'm sorry, Thomas Edison. Okay, yes, the international communists, they didn't see Tesla coming. So Tesla's technology came around and shifted everything out from under their feet. They had to redirect everything. In other words.
Well, it was better for them because DC would have been very difficult. They would have had stations like I said, 5G towers every 5 miles around the 5 miles. The place would have been littered with them, literally, actually littered with stations to push the power.
Right,
Yeah.
but the problem with these rich guys is they don't care who the hell they fund.
That's right.
They want to make money themselves. Right. That's the more important. They can just use somebody and just throw him out or don't fund anymore just because it's not lining up with their agenda.
That's true.
So,
they want to make money on the doorknobs for each of those buildings, Gene. Right? For each of those transformer buildings, they want to make money off of the window panes and the window sills, everything.
Yeah. The glass, the pins to hold the glass in.
Precisely, right. And they've got battalions of people to figure out how to do it overnight, almost, right? They make money off of every damn little thing.
Yeah. Well, once they got the technology,
Tesla comes
they
along
have the
and
money
changes
already. So the money's nothing. Once they understand how to forward ahead with the technology, they just go. They don't care who they step on and crush.
Yeah, exactly. But all these inventors, Genie, and all these people who are searching and looking for their riches through innovations and technology and inventions, they do depend on people and elites to fund them, because the money from where is going to come, because some of these projects are huge. You cannot do by yourself. You could make some small stuff and try to build up yourself. That's what Tesla was doing. He was making his invention and trying to build himself by making his own company. Even he was screwed so many times. Even the dynamo was his invention, and somebody else took the credit also. So
yeah, that's because he wasn't patented. He had so many ideas. He would have them all, like all the blueprints, all the exploded view descriptions of all these things in his head, perfected.
Exactly, and so in also in 1895, like there was a fire in his lab too, where all his notes and prototypes were burned. Because he was also the pioneer. He was also the pioneer in the discovery of radar technology, X-ray technology, remote control, and rotating magnetic field bases, of alternating current machines. His electric motor inductions, are behind many household applications today. Like we got all the thing that works on electric motors,
right?
Thanks to him, So what kind of all this technology we are speaking here? Go ahead.
Right, he had a remote control submarine boat in Madison Square Garden, and people were freaking out over it. They were losing their mind when they saw it. They thought there was a monkey inside. They thought it was magic. They thought he was the devil. They did not understand what he had.
You mean a remote control from the surface into the water?
Also, but also the functioning of remote control, like the technology of operating something without wire, could be anything, but it was his invention.
Yeah, he discovered how to get in, how to work the ether, what it was and what it was doing, and how to make it function.
Well, what I'm pointing out is to go from thin air into the water. That's phenomenal. I've never seen that before.
No, I didn't see any videos on it. I saw a picture. It looked like a submarine.
Okay. Well, I'm just pointing out that to go from one medium to another, that's a powerful signal, by the way, because what is water? It's one immense jamming mechanism.
8 pounds.
You see what I mean?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
now, in other words,
go ahead, Rob.
Submarines to communicate with the surface world, they have to send up a probe with a cable on it which more or less is a transmitter from the surface. They can't do it from within the water because electric waves don't travel in the water. Okay. So Gene, contemplate this for me if you would, because water's one massive conductor of electricity, right? Including electric wavelength signals. We gotta reconcile that. Submarines, in order to communicate, they have to send a more or less, it's an antenna up to the surface on a buoy, so they can communicate with the outside world.
Like a buoy.
But you're saying, yeah, it's a tethered buoy to the submarine. Okay, and it's obviously not moving forward. It's stationary. They send up a submarine, and they send up a buoy, and it relays out. At least that's what Hollywood says. Okay, so this is discussion. I'm bringing this up, and it only makes sense to transmit electricity from the water. Well, inside the water. Well, it's one big. The water itself, the medium, is one big jamming mechanism.
Right.
So how do we reconcile that?
Yeah, Rob, but the best part is only having that remote ability to remotely use different kind of devices. It itself 100 years before was like, almost like a magic, so.
Of course. And maybe he did have a radio beacon, like an antenna for the thing, on the surface. It was floating behind it or something like that. With a tethered
could have been something like that, right? Yeah.
Could have. I don't argue that. I'm just considering from thin air into the water. That doesn't make sense because water's one big conductor. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So during his research on wireless transmission, he also developed a new type of electric generator called electromechanical oscillator. So what it does is that it was used like attached to a platform, and where people could just stand up in it, and it would help people heal, different problems, also about with hair loss, with depression, so that he was trying to make technology that was curing through this electrical generators, oscillator he used to call it. So it was so powerful sometimes that the people were scared, because sometimes when he would put it full power, it would shake things up. People were calling that used to call that Tesla's earthquake machine. So,
yes, Vikka. I have a discussion on that when you're ready.
Go ahead.
Okay, the earthquake machine. I've read this, and why did I read it? I found it because there's something in engineering and physics. Excuse me, and it's something in physics, and this is physics 101 or Physics 101. It's known as resonant frequency. Think of a frequency, and then if you add another frequency at the right place, you can expand that frequency as big as you want, or you can minimize it as little as you want. It's called harmonic resonance. So I was thinking to myself, gee, look at those two buildings that went down in Manhattan on the day September 11th, 2001. I thought to myself, I bet you anything there's some harmonic resonance going on in there. So the idea came to my mind, Tesla harmonic resonance. Well, led me initially to this article that you're talking about there, Vikka, and I'll tell the story. Think of a metal building with the metal structure of the building. It's not wood. It's made out of metal. It's all connected. It's all rigid. Okay. What you could think of it as a clacker. It goes back and forth. Clack, 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 clack. So literally it was in his pocket, or, it's about the size of a football. He attached this thing to that metal frame, and the people at the top came down. Like within a minute or two, they all came down because that thing was clacking so much. It had that thing vibrating so much, the people thought there was an earthquake. The workers on the thing got off the thing as fast as they could. 1898 or something like that. Now,
exactly.
Couple that with the cavity magnetron, Vikka. Anybody on the internet, look up cavity magnetron. So combine Tesla's earthquake clacker device with something known as the cavity magnetron, which is what creates your frequency in your microwave, by the way. Okay, you want to heat your scrambled eggs, or you want to heat your pizza in your microwave. We all know what microwave does to pizza. It destroys it, right? Because what it does, it heats the water molecules first. They vibrate first in your pizza, and so they all turn to steam, and so your pizza, you're losing your structure. Well, the same type of device. Take that cavity magnetron that more or less turns your pizza to mush. Add 100,000 kilovolts to that, or 100 million kilovolts to that, and guess what? You can destroy any steel and brick building, any steel and concrete building you want in the world instantaneously. It's a death ray. So in other words, Vikka, there you go. Thank you, Vikka. I'll give it back to you. But in other words, Tesla's technology, that clacker turned into a cavity magnetron, turned into a big destructive event that we're all well familiar with.
Exactly, because in that time, in the 1896, like this machine, when he really invented it and was trying it out, and and giving up the potency, as you said, everything was shaking. The whole laboratory was shaking, and the whole building started shaking. The people were really scared because of this. And when the police arrived, so he had to smash his own invention, for sure. But they would have taken later through his notes or something, but the technology was there, to really destroy something, and shake everything up, only with this oscillator electric generator. So it's crazy stuff. And then they later also use like kind of use it for kind of, how you say, to melt metals, or lay the basis for locating oil and different kind of metals for looking, searching, and it's crazy.
It sounds like a DEW, a direct energy weapon.
That's exactly what it is, Gene. And here's my history. I went researching that event in September of 2001. There's a woman named Dr. Judy Wood. The website is wheredidthetowersgo.com. Watch that. It shows hours and hours and hours of video taken on that day.
Dust.
Now, she's a PhD in everything you could think of: structural engineering, fireproofing, engineering, temperatures and stress, and anything else. And Mama's cup of tea engineering. She's a PhD in all that. Okay. So she gives hours of lectures, and at the very end she says, well, what we have is we have an energy, an unseen energy, directed energy, she says, but we don't know what it is. And this is what cued me in to look at harmonic resonance. I thought to myself, you liar. She is a shill liar. She says, I don't know what this is. She's a PhD in every form of engineering that we can imagine. structural or civil engineering, construction engineering, whatever. But she doesn't know what this is. A cavity magnetron, by the way, 1948. Cavity magnetron was invented in 1948. And now here's Judy Wood in 2014 or something like that. She's telling us, or this is probably 2002 or 2003. She doesn't know what a directed energy is. What's a microwave? A microwave, it's got a device in the wall of your microwave, and it pushes a beam into the center of your microwave. Guess what? That's directed energy, isn't it? Absolutely it is. And she's trying to tell us she doesn't know what a microwave is. She's a liar. There you go. That very idea is what cued me in on this.
Was that on mainstream? Was that on the news?
Absolutely. Yeah. Go to the internet.
That's why.
Where did the towers go.com. She's a paid shill. She's no different than Alex Jones. Yeah. Okay, exactly. Seriously. InfoWars. That's all she is. Yeah. Can we say Bill Gates, Fauci, all that other garbage?
So also neon light, fluorescent lighting were invention that he patented in the early 1900s. And one of his most ambitious project at that time, yet he wanted to build, was worldwide wireless communication systems, and that it would be transmitted through a large electrical towers, to share information and provide free electricity throughout the world. And also, like, not only transmission of electrical energy, but also communication wirelessly, So you can see plans for creation of telephone, mobile internet, laser beam weapons. He was also in aircraft. He wanted to take off aircraft, vertical landing and VOTL. How do you call it? Vertical landing and takeoff. So all this he was at that time. You're speaking about 100 years ago.
Yeah, everything is. I used to think we were about 50 years behind the military, but I really think we're at least 100, at least with and a lot of their bigger projects and operations.
Right. So also in 1901, then J.P. Morgan, I think, or somebody from the Morgan, they try to finance him to make and build this power plant and transmission towers, so.
Yeah, that was Morgan. But Morgan was the one who said that if we can't put a meter on it, we don't want it. And that was kind of directed towards Tesla, because Tesla wanted the free energy because it's available. It's right here. Like I always say, AM waves are right here in front of your eyes, right? Wave your hand in front of your eyes. The AM waves are right there, but you don't know, So FM waves, all of those waves are right in front of you. But if you don't have a device to pick them up, they're kind of, I guess, it's intense purposes. They're all useless to you unless we can figure out how to pick them up ourselves for real. I wouldn't be surprised if we could, but we just don't know how.
It's all about the little technology, simple technology. And
exactly.
The big corporations, they do their best to hide it. Every now and then somebody smart will come along and develop it, but then they crush it again. We know that.
Yeah, I heard, I don't know if it's true, but I heard that someone that got taken out of the scenery, let's say, recently in Buffalo, was on TV the week before with a water-powered car, and now he's gone. So you're right, they do. They pop up every once in a while, and next thing you know, they're gone.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm referring to. And I was thinking one about a guy in the 1970s. There were a couple of those, and then you say another one happened.
Yeah, recently.
And they got rid of him too.
6 months ago. I only heard it once,
there you go.
And I couldn't find it again. You know how quick things come and go, and it's hard to find them a week later.
Right. Yeah, there's one blurb, we'll see one headline,
And it's, yeah,
right? And that'll be, and
they
that's it.
they mention the real stuff in between the Kardashians and basketball players.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Truth in the movies, lies in the news.
But yeah, Morgan didn't want anything to do with Tesla's success. He was a big robber baron, that guy.
Right. Macroni was more funded by after during that time than Tesla, because they just saw that they couldn't charge the people, they couldn't put the meters, that's why. So in the end, the tower had to be dismantled and sold as scrap to pay for all his bills. So
Yeah,
they were trying their.
Tesla.
Yeah, go ahead, Gene.
Well, he made a lot of money, but he also went broke trying to.
Exactly, because he was always trying to invent and in how you say invest in more than being rich. He wanted to create, and he did actually create a lot of stuff. Maybe many of his technology we are never going to see in this world. Many we are seeing right now, but many we are not even going to see, right? So we don't know what all he had. 700 we just say easily, but 700 is loads of stuff.
Yeah, when he died in Manhattan, they ostracized him. The apartment was paid for, but he had no money. And the New Yorker Hotel is a very strange building. It has some sort of generator in the basement there. But I'm not sure exactly what, but it's a strange building. Has a very interesting history. And when he died, Dr. Frankenstein just said in the chat that his Trump's uncle was not, maybe not in charge of raiding his apartment, but he was right there at the door, and his family couldn't, like Tesla's family couldn't go in the room before the feds went in, and Trump's uncle was very big name during that investigation, and they said, yeah, well, we didn't find anything anyway. So it kind of makes me curious to what they really found. And then the guy's nephew becomes president to save the world, right? Interesting.
Oh yeah.
Well, we know this, that crowd, their enemies, they treat them as if they were dead.
Yeah,
they want them dead, so they imagine and they act like they're already dead. So that's how they treated him and everybody else.
Yeah, they did. They really it's hard to go, like you said, because he didn't have that much money. Sure, he had plenty of money at the time, but he didn't have the money these moguls had. J.P. Morgan, you couldn't touch his money back then. John Astor, right. Morgan, there's a bunch of those names. You couldn't touch those guys, and they were all in cahoots with each other doing stuff. That's where the Fed came in, the Titanic, all that stuff. They were all on one side.
There you
exactly. Go. Yeah, Tesla made great discoveries, and contribution on the subject of electromagnetism. Like he realized that the energy was present in everything and in everyone. It was unlimited, that it had many applications and could be controlled like directly at the will of somebody, in some way or form,
Right. Yeah, that's like what I think, I could picture this stuff being like, we could probably communicate in our dreams, or even while we're awake, if we were taught this stuff. I believe that stuff's totally possible. That the phones, how we could send pictures back and forth, is just a cheap imitation of what we could really be doing without the phones, with more of what's going on in this creation we're in. I think we're all capable of sending those pictures and signals, and and that's when we used to travel in dirigibles. communicate. I'd say, Vikka, I'll be there on Tuesday. And you would know. And me and Rob would show up and
That's it, huh?
Led Zeppelins. That's really what I think. It was very safe way to travel. Food was different then. We didn't eat McDonald's and all the garbage that we eat now. So it's just a whole entire different lifestyle that I picture. And I think that's what he was trying to get at. Without giving all our resources to these guys to make money that they can just throw in the garbage for all they care about the money. They got so much of it. It's not about money. It's just about creating misery and taking your good thoughts away and stuff like that.
There you go.
Like that.
It's shoving us in small financial corners that you can't get out of. And
well, I wanted to bring up the fact that Tesla recognized it's all about the ether and ethereal energy. Well, that's a big topic in the flat Earth because the Rakia is
Right.
page 1 of the Holy Scripture. Let there be a firmament, which means Rakia. This is easy to describe. Anybody who doesn't understand, firmament is not the correct word. Firmament could mean a flat barrier like a window or a wall. But the Hebrew word is rakia, which means the dome, the solid dome. That's easy for anybody to understand. And that explanation right there, page 1 of the Holy Scripture. Now, people ask me, they can ask all of us, well, what does it matter? Well, it mattered enough to get on page 1 of the Holy Scripture. Okay? So, yeah, it is important. And then we could base every aspect of the flat Earth knowledge, flat Earth science on that scripture right there. Page 1 of the Holy Scripture. So what I'm getting at is it's all electromagnetic. As we've touched upon repeatedly in these conversations, everything about the sun, the moon, and all the other moving stars, which the Greeks call planets, they're not planets we know. They're just lights in the sky, just like the sun and the moon are. They're just higher up, with the North Pole being at the center of the dome, and the whole dome.
Rob, lost you.
Rob, you're breaking up. You're breaking up. All right. So also,
Okay, yeah, I've got it. I'm back on. So I just want to note these experiments here. Aries failure, 1871, proved that the star structure, the firmament, rotates once every 24 hours. And then 1887, Michelson Morley proved that the Earth isn't moving using speed of light in the ether. And then Sagnac comes along in 1913, proves that the ether exists. All of this, okay, let me say this again, flat Earth scientists, all of this reflects back to the first page of the Holy Scripture, the Rakia dome. It's all about the dome, the electromagnetic spectrum of the dome. Now, this Tesla guy, he figured it out, and he was making his electricity operate in such a manner.
Right, Rob, like in the 1900s, like Tesla patented his famous coil that which led to the foundation of wireless technology, which is still used in radio technology. The Tesla coil, like is like the central part of the electrical circuit, or the inductor.
Yeah,
that were used mainly early in radio transmission and antennas. So he knew how the Earth was and it was working. That's why he could really invent this kind of thing. You just cannot invent things out of thin air. You have to understand the workings of this nature, of this existence, to make inventions that work.
Basis for it.
Yep. Right.
I wonder what Tesla thought about the cathedrals and the star forts and the pyramids and stuff.
Yeah, the Tartarian technology. Yeah.
Right. It's because he reminds me of a Tartar guy. It just the whole thinking about it now. I'm like, this all sounds Tartarian. The free energy and the wellness centers, and he's just caring for people.
So, Gene, let's develop that. How could he have been a natural outgrowth of the Tartarian technology? The Tartarians, the positive and the negative. From what I understand, the domes on all their buildings and the what do we call them? we call
towers.
them a weather. The towers and the dome. We call it a weather vane now, but they use that weather vane to collect static electricity from the environment, from the ether.
Exactly.
Do you ever try moving one of them weather vanes? They don't move. It's not a weather vane.
Right.
It's supposed to be able to tell you which way the wind's blowing.
Conductor. It's a conductor, right?
It does not tell you which way the wind's blowing. Unless they're just fused shut. They're made of copper and beautiful, but they don't move too freely.
Exactly. The Tesla coil, like, is the Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Vikka. My phone, when the screen blanks out, I lose my signal. So that's what happens, guys. So I got to keep my eye on it. At any rate, isn't it interesting? And I've watched the video by whatever, the Lost History of the Flat Earth, which is deceptive, by the way. So I would warn anybody about it, because it doesn't talk about the creation. It doesn't talk about the short history of the Earth. It acts like the Earth is millions of years old, which it patently is not. So at any rate, when we look at the ancient Tartarian technology and the construction, both the Catholic and the Muslim construction is the same. They've got the dome roof towers with the spire on top of it. They've got a different shapes. You got the moon on the Muslim, and then they've got the cross maybe, or something else on the Catholic side. But guess what? Remember, Islam came from the Catholics. Okay, so that's natural that they have the same shapes on the top of their buildings. What I'm getting at is they inherited that technology. It existed previous to them. Okay, that's because it's general in Muslim and Catholic. It means they both inherited it. In other words, so what I'm still trying to point out is, Freemason world order, Luciferian world order. Instead of New World Order, I'm going to call it now Luciferian world order.
All right, okay, getting back to what was really happening with this coil and the way the electricity was moving to the atmosphere, because of his coil, it was an air core transformer, that produces voltage, current, high and low. It manages, So this technology, he could get at least 12 million volts and could light up bulb at 20, like maybe one mile away without wire. That's what he was experimenting with, with those Tesla coils and the radio technology that it was all basis of all of this different works, so, and also the fluorescence and X-rays, radio, all have involved the magnetism and frequencies and vibrations. So he was into, getting most of them. So anyway, guys, we're going to take a short break and we're going to be right back, because really it's an interesting topic. Yep. And so we'll be back in a couple of minutes, right?
Excellent.
Gene, please think of this.
There's nothing you cannot be. There's nothing you cannot do. There's nothing you cannot have. You are the most magnificent, the most remarkable, the most splendid being God has ever created. Who could reject such wondrous magnificence? But you do not know who you are. And you think you are a great deal less. I tell you this, you are your own rule maker. You set the guidelines, and you decide how well you have done, how well you are doing. For you are the one who decided who and what you really are, and who you want to be. The process of creation starts with thought, an idea, conception, visualization. Everything you see was once someone's idea. Nothing exists in your world that did not first exist as pure thought. Next comes the word. Everything you say is a thought expressed. It is creative and sends forth creative energy into the universe. Next comes action. Actions are words moving. Words are thoughts expressed. thoughts or ideas. Go first to your highest thought about yourself. Imagine the you that you would be if you lived that thought every day. Imagine what you would think, do, and say, and how you would respond to what others do and say. This whole process is a massive move to consciousness. What you will find out if you undertake this challenge is that you've spent half your life unconscious. That is to say, unaware on a conscious level of what you are choosing in the way of thoughts, words, and deeds until you experience the aftermath of them. Then when you experience these results, you deny that your thoughts, words, and deeds had anything to do with them.
I want to remind you to continue to dream and dream big.
All right, welcome back, guys, to the show. What an awesome show we are having today. We have Gene, we have Rob, we have Keith, we had even Mark, but he left. Maybe he has to do something. So yeah, I'm going to give a quick shout out to the people in the chat. FE Nation, hey brother. Dr. Frankenstein, Jade Eddie, hey, namaste brother. Then is Jeannie there. Then is Brian Odell. Hey Brian. And we have a few people from Facebook. Then there is Shane 187 Thompson. Then there is Jess Johanna's mom. Then is a few other people from Facebook. Then it's Raw STO. Then Serene Hamilton. And yes, Gary Towner. Hey, how are you, brother? And yes, it's crazy how this person Tesla been ripped off so many times. You know, before, as we spoke about how Edison took most of his stuff, also, you know, robbed him. So also the same thing happened with Macaroni. You know, Macaroni was given credit for the invention of radio, but what Macaroni was doing was he was using 17 different patents of Tesla.
Yeah.
That's what he was doing, and he took, because he finally he made that transmission over the Atlantic, but he was using most of Tesla's invention, 17 to be specific. You know, it's crazy.
That is pretty crazy.
So
They start
Vikka,
laying cables
if you
down.
don't mind.
Everybody know that?
Oh, those cables must have been there for a long time. As soon as they started, you can imagine this. As soon as I'm thinking this, as soon as they started with the telegraph, they immediately started laying cables for that.
They
Yeah, you see what I mean?
put them on the ships and started bringing them across the ocean, didn't they?
Of course.
Wow.
Now, Gene, I wanted to bring up this. How can we link Tesla to an outgrowth of the Tartarian technology? If we could, how can we do that?
He was born in Croatia. I'm not exactly sure geographically where that is, surrounded by, but I don't know if that tells you anything.
Croatia, Bosnia Herzegovina. It's southeastern Europe. It's more or less it's east of Italy.
Sorry?
East of Italy.
Okay. I don't know. I just thought of it, but all of it's reminding me of the similarities between the two stories are there, I think.
Okay. All right.
It would just be my guess that Tesla figured some of that, if it is Tartarian, whatever that technology was that was in those buildings, whether it was in Europe or Croatia, or whether it was in the 1892 World's Fair, that they give him credit for powering that stuff. I mean, if you look at the pictures, I'm sure you guys have, of all those buildings, even the Ferris wheel that had, huge capacity that something like it could haul 2,000 people at one time on one Ferris wheel. How are you going to get the power for that?
Yeah.
It's back in the 1890s. So it's possible,
Yeah.
in my that Tesla, while he was in Croatia or wherever, that some of the ancient technologies that worked in those buildings was still working, and he had figured some of it out even before he came here. And so he continued to work on it and develop it while he was here. Now, this is just my opinion, my theory. I don't know that he created.
Right, but yeah. Go ahead, Keith.
I'm sure he created some amazing things himself, but he also might have been recreating or just rediscovering some things that were already here that he had seen or played with from the ancient technologies.
Right.
Okay, Gene, Keith, I'm going to follow on from there. Just as the Germans were using the Zeppelins, the Germans were about to maximize and dominate world air travel with their Zeppelins, as Gene was mentioning, which is why the Luciferian world order staged the Hindenburg accident to functionally stop them from their development. The Tesla thing in the World's Fair of 1892, that seems to be something similar. It was an industrial sabotage here.
Well, also going back to what you guys were talking about a direct energy weapon, most of those buildings, they saved a few of them, but most of those huge, magnificent buildings from Chicago in 1892 were obliterated. I mean, there's no trace of them. They said that they blew them up with dynamite and buried them because they were just temporary structures, but the ones that they saved are still there. 130 years later, they're still standing strong. So, how did they destroy?
Really, Keith? They said they blew them up with dynamite.
That's what I heard. I heard they claimed that they blew them up with dynamite just because they were temporary structures. But like I said, the ones that are still there are standing strong 130 years later. So how did they actually destroy those buildings that had, God only knows how long they've been?
Oh. And why would they do that? Let me guess. They lost that technology, and it's painful to build it back again.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Right. That's what it is. It's like saying goodbye to everything. Introduce it as the new, but they're saying goodbye to the old is what they think they did. Because I heard those structures. I heard those structures were stick framing, meaning lumber, 2x4s, and plaster.
Yeah, even if they were,
I don't think you don't need dynamite to take that stuff down.
Yeah, but even if they were lumber, the sheer size of those buildings, they could have never built those in 2 or 3 years. Yeah. Those buildings.
No, you know how plaster of Paris is pretty heavy, so it doesn't make any sense. And the time frame that they took to do that was 2 years to start to finish, to level it out, excavate, build everything, sculpt all that stuff. What was everybody an artist back in those days?
Yeah, and not
because
just there.
Some serious. Yeah, it was seriously fantastic.
Same exact buildings down in the St. Louis World's Fair, and then if you look to San Francisco and see some of the old buildings over there, that San Francisco got obliterated. I mean, it looked like some direct energy weapon hit it back in the 1850s. So there was technologies 150 years ago we don't know anything about today. I mean, somebody knows about it, but Tesla had tapped into it and already started figuring it out when he came on the scene.
Keith, Tesla was not only reading whatever his research, he was reading many different, ancient texts too. He was also a lot into Vedas also, so there's a lot of technology that there's something could be existing. There's nothing new under the sun, but getting it back where it's lost is also could be a way, of that this technology was coming back, because the elite didn't have this technology with them. That's if they had with them, they didn't need to fund any of these guys for any of the technology. We're speaking about light, we're talking about communications, we're talking about weapons, we're talking about everything. Okay, because these people understand, these people understood the technology and how to put it to work. So that's why that is possible. That could be, this technology could have existed much more before and was lost, and these people try to get it back with the understanding of the nature and how things work and how electricity works and how the system works and what could be done and what could be produced, because you see the timeline 1800s, 1900. What was before that?
Right.
If there was so much technology of this kind of electrical technology of communication and everything, it should have been much more evolved and Tartarian stuff of just buildings, you know. There's so could be, yep.
You know, and when Mark was on here earlier, and he mentioned that quote that Tesla said, you know, the Earth is really not a planet; it's more like a realm. And I've heard people debate that and say, "Oh, he didn't really say that," but it is always funny or telling that the people who are saying he didn't say it are the ones that are trying to defend the globe nonsense. So I would tend to believe that he did say it. But one of the other quotes that I've thought on or meditated on from Tesla is where he said,
because it makes sense.
Yeah. But one of
Yeah, right. It's observable and agrees with what we can observe. That's why you're saying that, Keith. Sorry, but go ahead.
Well, there's a lot of great quotes from him to think about and meditate on, but a simple one that ties into my personal spirituality. I mean, I don't really call myself a Christian, I'm definitely a churchgoer, but I have some kind of relationship with whatever spirit is. Like I'm sure you guys do too. But the one quote that speaks to me a lot is where he said, "The gift of mental power comes from God, a divine being, and if we concentrate our minds on that truth, we become in tune with this great power." And then he said, "My mother had taught me to seek all truth in the Bible." So whoever Tesla wasn't just a scientist that believed in the Big Bang or any of the other nonsense. He was a real scientist who had some kind of a relationship with spirit.
Exactly, yeah, because you have to be really connected spiritually to have that how you say, a character of helping the world or developing and giving it to the humanity free, because not many scientists are born like that. They're okay, the main principles is to make money and be famous. Most of the scientists want, and maybe even
Exactly.
Tesla wanted, because they want to live a real good life with the things they know, the knowledge they have, right? So every one of these creators have that, but Tesla was special because he was really working, because as I said, he was into also Vedic research, and one of his best friend was a guru from India. And they used to speak for hours. They were best friends. What do you think? They were speaking about making a cake recipe or something? No, they were speaking about how the universe works, how is this work, how the system works, to sharing data and knowledge, which would help him to create and invent things. Just one example. So,
And those
yep, go ahead.
things are those Vedic temples and how intricate and detailed they are. There had to be some kind of energy or frequency that carved those buildings out of stone. There's no way someone could have done that with a hammer and a chisel.
Well,
Exactly.
Well said there, Keith.
What if they used to be wood though, and then they would turn to stone?
Yeah, that's possible.
I don't know. Right? Maybe.
Like the
yeah, there's incredible, incredible technology coming from that Indian subcontinent there. Just incredible when we look at it. So good point there. Yeah, Gene. A lot of things turn to stone. Mainly when they get looked at by certain women. That's when they turn to stone. Or at least they try.
I wondered that one.
That's the attempt, right?
Because some people say that they were 3D printed, and I don't know. It doesn't really strike me hard enough to consider that. But I don't know. But cutting them out of wood and then making them stone could have. I don't know. Sounds a little more realistic to me, or a little more possible.
Oh, they're still so perfect, and I mean, and massive.
No,
inside and outside of the building, both.
So incredible what they used to do.
Incredible. Yep.
I used to walk around Manhattan looking at old churches on Mondays with a friend, because we both had off on Mondays, and it was kind of quiet. Not too many people. We would walk around from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. or later even. We loved just walking around looking at those structures and what they had inside. And I wish I knew then what I know now.
Yeah.
I wish I was knew what I was looking at. Incredible.
Exactly. So people like Edison and Macaroni, they were in line with these people who were funding it, because this elite know that if the wrong innovation could jeopardize their whole plan. So there were literally stuff from Tesla that they were not funding, or they were making problems, because they knew that if they don't control the innovation, if it goes in public hand, they are done. You know, so they really control the funds to, and had this some of the people to only work on what they want. So there's a lot of stuff that we would never know, that didn't make it to the light, from him. So
Right. Yeah, like those papers they took out of his apartment. I can't imagine there was nothing in there. Like they said, if they said there's nothing in there, you probably got to think there's something in there.
Of course.
It's a shame what happened to that
exactly.
guy, though.
Yeah, he in the end he ended very, in a hotel, with no money, all his stuff taken, losing all his stuff behind all these
Yeah.
inventions. And they literally played out with him. And the crazy stuff is that nothing is this being taught in the school, because this is science. This is the science, the most important science, how the whole technology works today. You know, so
That's a really
the
good
person
point,
who is
Vika.
really, yeah, go ahead.
That's a really, really great point, because I never learned about him in school. If I did, I don't remember. But I didn't hear about Tesla until the band came out, and they were talking about stuff like this. A song here or there. And how can
Yeah,
something like that be like such a little glimpse in the history books? That's crazy. Or your science books.
Yeah, I
So
came
that's
you're
a
right.
I came across
great
4 or 5
point.
books last week. I bought 4 or 5 old science books from the 1930s, and they were kids from school, but they were all about nature and animals and planting things and growing things. Nothing
Right.
about dinosaurs, nothing about spaceships. I mean, it was real science.
Yeah. That's what
You're
school
right.
was
Yeah.
back before
Yeah.
the 1850s.
Yep. No, I'm talking this is 1930s. These science books I just got were from the
Right. I
1930s.
I meant 1950s.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There
That's
was,
right.
there was
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
one more
Right.
quote.
So yeah, go ahead.
There's another quote that I like from him where he said, "One must be sane to think clearly, but one can think deeply and be quite insane." And that just reminds me of like Michio Kaku and Neil Disgrace Tyson and these guys that are just insane claims that they're making when they have zero proof for it. And the simplicity that we have all discovered once we found out the Earth is, an electrical topographical plane, that I'm able to think clearer today about a lot of things than I was before, when I used to think that we were living on a spinning wet rock in outer space. So there was a lot of things that Nikola Tesla said in the quotes and the little bit of study that I've had of him that makes me think he was absolutely what we would call today a flat earther.
Exactly, and for that's why I mentioned, like he knew exactly how the system works, because he cannot just be thinking on the invention without knowing how the real world. That's why he was against this Einstein's theory of relativity and many things. And as we said, all the theories, and there were other guys like Sagnac and Marson Morley were also there to who was similar to Tesla's opinion of where, because all this was in the same timeline, so everybody had to knew what is reality is. That's why these people were making real inventions. The rest were just doing fake maths. What did they really
Right.
invent? And these scientists and these geniuses, they call them today, they are nothing, they're just fake. And these people who really did the real stuff and real science, including Tesla, the main guy, and all the most of his invention is based on this, how this earth works. So what do you think, he was going to be a glober? No way. He was a flat earther, and I think he's the one who presents flat earth more than anybody else, and the biggest one, because from the ball lightning experiment or any of his other, how the electrical works, how the wireless technology works, how everything works, on a flat earth, the coil, the battery,
Yeah.
the system, how they work, the sun, the moon, how the water stores the energy. Everything works on the world. The motor, the AC motor, how it works. So he is a flat earther. He was a flat earth, and I think it's one of the main reason. Apart from that, these technologies don't come. The main thing that people don't know that the Earth is flat too, because he would have finally said to the world that what is the real shape of the Earth is.
Yeah, and what a great thing for the controllers now to take Elon Musk and create a company called Tesla and link him in with Fake X and putting a car in space and doing all these fake launches where they're going up about 50 miles to try to discredit Tesla and the knowledge that he had about our electrical system.
Exactly, yeah. And he
Yeah,
was
look at
one
the
of the,
striking
as we,
differences
Yes, good,
between.
Hey, guys.
good point
go
there.
ahead, go ahead.
Good point there, Keith. A lot of the quote TV science of today, and let's call it that TV science. Neil deGrasse Head, and all of NASA. Those are designed to disprove Admiral Byrd and the ice ring and the idea, right, as well as what Tesla knew about everything. So they're creating this alternate fake reality called the Matrix to deceive the world from reality, which that's our topic, is our main topic. But yes, indeed, they use their fake science TV and fake science experiments to create this alternate reality to deceive away. Voila.
Absolutely.
I think that's part of the insanity that he was talking about in that quote, is that somebody can think deeply and be quite insane. I mean, in my simple mind, I mean, truth, helps you think clearly and be sane, and lies make you confused and makes you insane. And a lot of the insanity that
100%.
we see in this modern day science is because of the lies that we've all been fed since we were born, and the people that are continuing to believe them instead of question them are just going deeper down this insane rabbit hole of fake science and pseudoscience that we see everywhere on every TV show, every kid's TV show. I can't even let my kids watch much of the kids' cartoons because everyone has a globe or a spaceship or a dinosaur throughout the entire thing. And it's just all fake science, which is lies.
Candy bars.
Yeah, that makes people be, confused and insane.
Well, we live in a cartoon society.
Keith, you're absolutely right. Not only that,
Yeah, because if you're,
I have seen
yep,
satanic ceremonies on the girls' cartoons. One is called Word Girl. I saw what is a satanic ceremony on that cartoon. Keith, you're absolutely right. Our kids, they can't watch 1 minute of those cartoons. There's symbols and there's actors. It is the Luciferian matrix in front of our eyes. Absolutely right.
I mean, Rob, they don't
Right,
even
Disney
have to
owns
use
it.
anymore. Sticking it right in our face, truth in plain. They're not even hiding it anymore. The Luciferian, the agenda is not hidden anymore.
Oh yeah,
it's in plain
correct.
sight. They don't care anymore. You know what I mean? You got 64 other genders.
Right.
Let's make believe that we're a man today and a woman tonight. I mean, we live in a psychotic Luciferian. If people don't believe in God, that's one thing. But man, you live in a devil's world. I'm gonna tell you right now. If people can't see that, they're gonna wait for it to bite them on the ass, because it's a battle between good and evil. That's what we're in.
Absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well
The
said.
more lost,
Well said.
the more lost the people are with this fake mass and all this CGI and all this animation, and right now also, the more lost they are, the more less they're going to look into real science, as we are speaking about, and the real Earth. So how many they can,
Yeah.
they will.
And the more they're going to only trust in authority.
Exactly. Whatever is being feeding, just carry
exactly.
it.
Trust
go
in
ahead,
authority,
Scott.
the authority. They're trained to trust and obey authority from age 4 in the preschools, and then they get to the kindergarten, and then grades 0 through 12. Do what you're told. don't talk out of line, and do only what we tell you.
Raise your hand.
Right, and only think. You raise your hand before speaking, and memorize what we say and regurgitate it on a test. You cannot think for yourself. That's one of the main messages from the public schools. We cannot think for ourselves. Voila.
Yeah, but they say
Rob,
think out, as they claim to say, think out of the box and be creative.
Hey Rob, I'm gonna elaborate.
Right, but
they tell you what to think. They don't teach you how to think. They only tell you what to think. Memorization and you know, that's the whole. That's the reason why society has been so dumbed down. I mean, Tesla wasn't even in your science books, for crying out loud. We accidentally, FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act, we accidentally found out about Tesla because of the technological advances they were making as far as like computers and cell phones, cellular.
There you go. And here's another thing. Any of us on this forum today, any of us, because we are scientists, we literally can invent, because I've invented word problems that have to do with the elevation at Kansas City, Missouri, according to the globe model. It'd have to be 202 miles. Why don't we see that when we studied the Pythagorean theorem in 10th grade? Okay, that's simple geometry. They don't teach us simple geometry. They only teach us what they want us to know.
Yeah.
And my boy, by the way,
system.
Absolutely. It's the matrix indoctrination system. Let me ask you this. I'm going to ask my boy sitting right here. Levi, what's the shape of water? He's making a sign with his hands. It's flat, isn't it? What's the shape of water, Levi? There you go. Did you hear that? He said flat. My boy is 3 years old. My boy is the flat earth generation, my friends. Okay? He's going to know all this. Conceptual thought. They don't.
The only curves I want to see is a beautiful woman. Everything else.
They don't teach. You walk out of high school barely understanding how to balance a checkbook.
Not even.
They don't teach you how to. They don't teach you how to take care of your health, how to take care of your healthcare system. They don't teach you how to drive. They're going to send you out in the most dangerous place in the world, and they can't hook up. The teachers union can't hook up with the automotive union to help kids get on the road safely. Shame.
It's pathetic.
All right. So what happened was, like, people like JP Morgan and all these elite, they were always seeing business opportunities in Tesla's discoveries, and wanted to finance in something. But after they realized that, Tesla did not intend to develop, a different wireless communication system, but also he wanted to supply unlimited energy, so they just stopped, and imagine if the wireless communication and power system, if it was out 100 years ago, imagine how would have been the world today.
Yeah. Well, Vikka, the beast system destroyed Tesla, but you know what? Tesla just got back on his feet. He didn't care. He was comfortable in his own skin. Tesla didn't mind them stealing all of his information the second time they broke New York City apartment. He goes, I don't care if they steal my ideas as long as they come up with any of their own. And Tesla didn't
exactly.
care. But the thing about it is they continuously, because that's what greed does. Government greed, the Freemasons, they want to profit off of someone else's ideas. They'll steal it from you, and they'll do anything to do it because they realize what a gold mine of thought that he had in all of his electrical advances that Tesla put forth, including the seismograph, the earthquake. I mean, it's over 200 inventions, but the government is, it is what it is.
Exactly, and imagine if this technology was out 100 years ago, we wouldn't be dependent on oil today, and the situation we are in today because of oil, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it came from oil. That's where pharmaceuticals come from, by the way, from oil-based products.
Yep.
Yes, a lot of it has to do with the reset. Literally, Rockefeller was a type of petroleum reset. Tried to reset all the economy to petroleum-based products. Voila.
Which is the blood of the earth, by the way. Oil is the second most
Right.
plentiful source in this world. It ain't fossil
Yes, it is.
fuels. It's the
Second
blood
only
of
to
the
water.
It is the blood of the earth.
Exactly. Like today's education system, does not allow like the science, that Tesla was using, the real innovation. The real
Right.
innovation is only happening below, the top secret military projects.
Yeah, they're flying drones on Mars. With, that's
Oh
what
yeah,
we got.
helicopters,
Even
right?
on
Helicopters and parachutes on Mars with
Yeah.
theoretically no atmosphere. So what is it exactly that's opening these parachutes, and how are these helicopter blades? How are they
It's the Big
flying?
Bang.
Yeah,
It's a Big Bang.
it's all like the shape of Antarctica. Why is the shape of Antarctica the shape of the human brain? Because it's all in your head.
Mm.
Voila. It's all imagination, in other words.
Exactly, and also like on his 75th birthday, he received maybe from 70 different scientists. He received letter, like also Albert Einstein wrote to him, like and in 1931 they made him like how you say the man of the year, and they give to that was much before Einstein. So imagine, and like in Einstein, they gave him in 1970s, with the present time, like very near. But to Tesla was already in the 1931. Like it's
right.
crazy
Exactly
how.
right. Well, in 1931 was Augusta Picard too, when he went up in that 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 balloon that he had. He also invented that submariner, the submarine that went down to the Marianas Trench. He helped innovate that, Augusta Picard. But when that 1931 Vikka, I believe, Picard went in his hot air balloon in 1931.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's the guy from Star Trek too, by the way, right? Picard.
Yeah, he stole his name exactly. Well, one C instead of two C's.
Yeah, right. So
Right.
same thing. That's what they're getting at. That's like they steal everything. They retell the same story over and over.
They claim it as their own. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's it.
Well, yeah, and you know what? I want to bring that up right at this moment. They claim it at their own. They claim it as their own. Now let's I want to bring this up because there's a lot of controversy about here. You guys are all confident that Tesla existed. He's the real deal. But then we see all these other, and you already touched on before. Are those images of him with the Masonic symbols with his hands and his other gestures? Let's talk about that. Is that the Luciferian world order trying to reach back and claim him, which he was not? Is that what's going on?
Right.
That's quite possible, but I think Tesla was omitted from your science and history books because of the reason of the fact that he was not a Freemason. And they were, he thought that electricity should be free for all humanity because everybody's made of electricity, including your heart function, your brain function, everything's electrical. By nature, the biological anatomy of the human body, the main organs. Tesla does. But if Tesla was a Freemason per se, they would have put him on a pedestal. For some reason, he was married to his work. He was never married. He was in love with his work. That's all he wanted to do. He was an inventor, a creator.
Really?
The Bruce, he was the man of the hour. And I agree with Vikka. He was the ultimate flat earther that actually create a sensational reality that Earth is a big giant battery, Tesla coil. Everything's alive.
Well said, Mark. Because if he was a Freemason, he would have been bigger than Einstein. Because Einstein didn't do a shit. Because apart from all the inventions and all his technology and all his research and all his knowledge, he was against Einstein and his theory. The year he was named the man of the year. in the same interview, he just wrote that he can really destroy Einstein's theory. So he was not only a threat in a way of innovation and technology for the humanity. He was against. He was a threat for the whole globe indoctrination. So that's why
Exactly.
he ended how he ended. How he ended. Right. Go ahead.
Exactly. Exactly right. You nail on the head, buddy. Yep.
All right, yeah. So we know the last part of his days. He finally he ended in a hotel where somebody was paying his rent. He didn't even have for the rent, you know. So, but I think he would have died peacefully because he tried dying trying to do something for the humanity. So there's the most of the stuff we discussed today in this podcast. Many wouldn't have known also that in details how many stuff he was working on and what all he invented and what was his ideas and what were the elites were doing that all this technology couldn't get in the hands of the humans, and what would have been the world today. So it makes a lot of sense that why he was so suppressed and ended like this, because the world would have been different, and we could say really, really, like with confidence that this guy was a flat earther. His research, his innovations, his inventions, everything works on the principles of a non-rotating stationary plane. So awesome,
And
guys.
Vic,
So we're gonna have last thoughts. Yep, we're gonna have last thoughts, and we're gonna be wrapping up, guys. Because yep, go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, my last thoughts will just be the three main points of energy, vibration, and frequency. I think we could sum that up in the word power. And what powers the sun? What powers the moon? What powers you and my brain, my heart? Like Mark just said, there's this power that we're all trying to learn more about and live in harmony with and live in peace with. And Nikola Tesla obviously knew that the Earth was powered like a battery, positive and negative. He knew that the Earth was an electrical, topographical, stationary plane, and I will claim him all day long as a flat earther. I will not allow these globe heads that I debate on Facebook quite often, or I don't even debate anymore, because I tell them there's really no debate. You don't have 1 ounce of empirical evidence for your claims. I have thousands. I have thousands of proofs of seeing things way too far above the horizon that we would never see, would be impossible. I mean, the horizon alone debunks the globe. There's never any geometry on it. You cannot ever see observable or measurable convexity on the x-axis or the y-axis on any water. So I do not even really engage in debates with some of these guys like I used to a couple years ago. But I will not allow them to come back at me with any kind of a Tesla quote about science, when the science that Tesla was creating amazing things was science based on a stationary level plane. That's it, guys. It's good to be with you again.
well said, Keith. All right. Anyhow, Vic, I'm in with this one. Think about as many times that Tesla made fun of Einstein. And think no further than the fact that he wasn't in our science or history books. And a quote by Tesla. Think about this, guys. Today's scientists have substituted mathematics for experiments, and they wander off through equation after equation and eventually build a structure which has no relation to reality. Nikola Tesla. He always referred in dozens of his quotes in relation to Einstein's works. And right after Einstein's theory of relativity, and Rob knows this, they had over 100 Austrian and German scientists came at the University of Bern, B-E-R-N, and claimed that the theory of relativity was absolute nonsense. And yet, in a year and a half later, they started putting that crap in our science books. No wonder humanity has been dumbed down so much. They believe in theory. They believe in theoretical garbage from physics, astrophysics on a chalkboard, and not something that can be observable, repeatable, testable, and repeatable. As Keith had alluded to. So, but yeah, it's I definitely claim him as a flat earther. He was a realist, And his 234 inventions, I think it speaks a mouthful, on just the creative genius of Nikola Tesla. Thank you for having me, Vikka. Sorry, guys, I had to cut out for a little while because I had a bad signal. I was in a dead area. Damn satellite didn't pick me up either.
All right, brother. Thanks for being here, and thanks, Keith, too. Who's going next?
Okay, I'll take over. Thanks for the space. Now, first of all, I want to admit that you all have reconverted me back to Tesla, because I saw those Masonic symbols that he was making, and I jumped on that bandwagon. I said, you know what? Whatever he invented, it kind of looks like they could have invented it for him and then posted his name on it. Kind of like Bill Gates. Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, they did not invent the computer. Those were already invented. Those were all already invented at the time of NASA. Those guys were just posted on there. And then Bill Gates his name was plastered on the computer, and then this lethal injection that's happening as of 2019. So that was my opinion for a little while. But now, as of today, listening to you guys as a seminar, that's what we're doing. We're doing a verbal seminar. Hearing you guys talk like this and your conviction, I already know you guys. I trust that you guys know what you're talking about, and you do. Number one, you know what the shape of the Earth is. Sure, the Earth doesn't move and it doesn't curve. And there's 1,000 other examples that show us the topography and the nature of the Earth. When you guys are telling me in such faith that Tesla did all this,
Oops, Rob, you're breaking up. Rob,
okay, I'm back on. I'm back on.
Yeah.
Thanks for the alert there. I'm back on.
Yep.
Okay. Long story short, I'm back on board with Tesla, and I honor the work that he did. Thanks for bringing me back. I'll admit that, and I'll say that because that's constructive for myself. It's constructive for you, and it's constructive for anybody listening, because it's easy to get swayed by all this garbage that they place on the internet, and anywhere else in the research forum. So back on with. I'm sorry, say again.
He was a Bible thumper too. He believed in the Word of God. He did that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you. As am I. Literally, I was. How about here's a humorous anecdote. There I was at church today, and they were talking about what good thing are you doing right now. Well, I spoke up, and you know what? Other people. This is just a humorous anecdote. Other people were saying, well, I go to church and I try to be nice to people. And my comment was, I do webcasts with a bunch of other scientists. We did a 90-minute documentary. We talk Jesus Christ every time we get on the air. I want to say this: Jesus Christ is the Son of God. He was resurrected, and now the gospel of Jesus Christ has been restored to the earth. PM, which is private message, and I'll tell you all about it. But I want to say that. But in other words, other people were talking about how they're nice with people and they raise their kids. But I talked about I do webcasting with you guys. And then another guy later on, one of the guys asked me, so Rob, tell me about that a little bit. I like what you're saying. I said, yeah, the most important two words of all time are Jesus Christ. And then I told him the most important two words of science are flat earth. And guess what? He laughed at me. He literally laughed at me right there in the church building. And I looked at him, I said, well, you don't see me laughing. In other words, what are you laughing about? If you want to find out what the Bible really is, what the Holy Scripture really is, it's flat earth, and we can observe it, and they're still refuting it. So these people.
Oh, Rob, again you are breaking up. All right, Rob.
Oh, okay. I think I'm on. I'll close it up because, long story short, though, our colleagues, our fellow man, they know nothing about the shape of the earth, and they don't want to know. They're happy with their golf and baseball. This guy loves baseball. They love their baseball and they love going to the mall and their movies. They don't care. So if I could suggest anything to all of us, we've got to get people interested in the shape of the earth somehow, whatever it is. I mean, good luck, guys, because nobody seems interested in it, or very few, we could say. Very few, right? Anyway, all the best, guys. Thanks again, Vikka. Thanks to everybody else for showing up, for talking today.
All right. Thanks, Rob. And just adding to what you had mentioned before, you imagine you said that just because of some info, you were thinking that Tesla was a Mason or whatever, or was not the right guy. But really, if we look into it, so it's so easy. What I mean is, it's so easy to get diverted from the truth, because what is happening is that a little bit of diversion can really take you on a wrong path. I mean, the people, so imagine how it's easy for the majority of the masses to not even get to the truth, or even the awakened one sometimes, because just diverting to a wrong, so because there's a lot of information and innovation and research and study which could be breaking down what Tesla has done, and this technology can help prove even the shape of the earth, if you really think about it. So yep, it just happened. We just have to just try to get it the right way. So thanks, brother, for being here. Genie, what's up, bro?
Hey guys, Vikka, thanks for the show again, bro. Thanks for inviting me. I feel like we're talking about. I'm here with legends, talking about a legend. It was a really great show. Learned a lot tonight, and I was confused about the weird picture and the chain on the collar. There's something off about it, and I was always thinking that they controlled it, so they put that there because they can't sweep everything under the rug. It's out. So if you sweep it all under the rug, it's just way too suspicious. But yeah, interesting subject, and it was a great conversation. I was happy to be part of it. And thanks to everybody who's listening. Thanks a lot for spending your time with us. I hope you had fun, and it's great to see you guys, and hope you come back. Have a good week. And Mark, I'm glad you made it back, bro. I haven't seen you in a while. It was really good to be with you. And Keith, I can't wait to see what you got to say tomorrow, because the morning walks are really awesome. And Rob, we'll see you next week. Vikka, have a great week. Don't work too hard, brother. We'll see everybody next time.
Thank you, bro. Thank you, brother. Always great to pleasure to have you too, bro. And yes, even for the awakened one, sometimes it could be difficult, and we know there are many people who, even flat earthers, who think that Tesla is not the thing. But without a doubt, Nikola Tesla was a true genius, an unusual person with this like special sensitivity, who really discovered like part of the hidden secrets of this world, but they are still protected. There are other secrets too that we hope will be used for the good of humanity. But without a doubt, his legacy and discovery will continue to be like present among us. So thank you guys. And yes, he is a flat earther, and one of the main flat earther scientists ever to be existed is Nikola Tesla. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Gene. Thank you, Keith, Mark, brother, and Rob, and everybody in the chat. Make sure you guys check it out next week with an awesome show of Heliopsychosis podcast. Bye, guys.
Good night, everybody.
Guys.
Night, everyone.
All the best. Good night. Good luck, week.
Astronauts to the moon.
Houston, we have a problem.